Hello, my name is Don Saito. I'm the founder of ERP Efficiency Experts. We are a Microsoft Dynamics Business Central and Microsoft Dynamics Nav reseller. Today we're going to go over the top 10 Business Central productivity tips. These are things you can do within Business Central to make your life a little easier, to increase your production, and so on. The first one that we're going to cover is filtered views. So let's take a look at the customer history, which is our customer ledger. And we'll go into customer ledger entries. And let's say I want to filter on a remaining amount here. Let's take a look at the remaining amount column. Here it is. And I'll go ahead and hide this fact box area. So I want to see, for example, documents or transactions that are a remaining amount greater than 0. So I'll go ahead and say filter list, and I'll choose the field I want to filter on, which is remaining amount. And I'm going to say greater than 0. And so now I have this filtered, and maybe I want to see larger amounts at the top and smaller amounts as we go down. So here we can see all of the invoices that are due. And I want to save this. I don't want to have to come in here and set the filters every single time. I can set additional filters if I want. But for now, I just want to save this view. So if you notice, there's a little icon here with a disk. So you can click that. And you can just give this a name. Let's say customers with remaining amounts. And I'll just press enter there. And that view is now saved, and I can access that view anytime. You can see I have the customer ledger entries here. There's now a new option here for filtering all customer ledger entries. Or I can choose customers with remaining amounts. So I don't need to set that filter. And you can set multiple filters as well. So if you're setting 3, 4 filters, you don't want to have to do that every single time. Number 2, personalizing your pages. So you can personalize a page so that it is more efficient for you to look at the screen. So for example, there's amounts in here which are kind of redundant if I'm not using foreign currencies. You can see there's a $sign there, and there's one without a $sign here. And we also have original amount, and we have a currency code. If I'm not dealing with foreign currencies, I may want to simplify my screen. So to do that, we click the gear icon and we hit personalize. And by the way, when you're personalizing, it doesn't affect anybody else. It only affects your screens. So you can do this to your heart's content without messing anyone up. Now, if you totally mess up and take off fields and make a dog's breakfast out of it, you can always clear your personalizations and it'll restore it back to normal. So now when I'm in this personalization mode, you can see it says personalizing. I can add a field using this. I can remove fields by hovering on top of a field, and if I click on the red arrow here, you can see I have the ability to move, hide, set a freeze pane, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and hide the currency. I'm not interested in that. I will get rid of one of these amount fields, so I'm going to go ahead and hide that so I don't need to see redundant information. And I'll also hide the original amount. So now I have amount, remaining amount, one with the dollars and one without, so just to be consistent, I'll hide this one too. And now I have due dates, I've got payment dates, and so on. So this looks much better to me. I may want to move some fields across, so I can simply drag and drop those fields where I'd like. And you can see that it moved that open flag over there. So you can just tailor your screen exactly the way you want it to make it more efficient for you. Okay. Now, using the push pin. Okay, so when I'm looking at various menus, for example, let's say I'm on the customer, and let me just open up a customer. Now I'm on the customer card here. And oftentimes when you're using these buttons here, there are options underneath it, and every time you've got to click on here, and if you click off, those options disappear. So it's kind of cumbersome to have to keep doing that every time to do that. So what you can do is, if you notice there's a little push pin here, if I click there, then the menus, if you see here, if I click back on the screen, those will just stay there. So the push pin is very nice for that. Sometimes you'll have multiple trees here, so that it just helps to have those menu options showing there all the time. Another thing is oftentimes, and this will be number 4, is using the search feature to find options buried within the menus here. So let's say I'm looking for the recurring sales invoicing function. I don't remember where it was. Maybe it was here, maybe it was here. And I'm kind of clicking around and I can't seem to find it, but I do remember what it was called. So I'm going to go ahead and use my search bar here, and I'm going to search for recurring and see if I find anything. If you notice, it says on current page here. This is the customer card. You have the recurring sales lines function. So if I click that, then it opens up the recurring sales line function. So that's a nice way to find something. You kind of remember that function exists, but you can't seem to find it. Use that search function. Okay, number 5, looking at data in a table. So sometimes I am interested in seeing additional data that may be in a table. So let's go to a sales order. Sometimes it's useful to try to find out what kind of information is in the header of this sales order, or sometimes I want to see what data is on the lines. So let's go ahead and just fill this order up. Let's go ahead and put a line in here, and I'll put in a quantity. And sometimes when you're trying to debug something or something doesn't seem to be working right, you may want to look and see what data might be underlying behind the scenes. So what you can do is you can press Control Alt F1, and this will bring up page inspection. And if you notice, it tells you the page is the sales order. Number 42 is the number of that page. And then the table that underlies that page is the sales header table, which is table 36. Now below here you can see all of the fields that are in that table, which may not be on the actual page. So you can see all of the data behind the scenes and what values are in it. You can also search for fields using the search button, which is really useful as well, because there are often a lot of fields in here and scrolling through it can be a bit cumbersome. But this gives you a clue to what's going on internally, and you can see all the different values of all the fields. You can also see the values in the line item section too by clicking into the lines here. You can see an orange bar box gets drawn across this thing, and you can see now it shows me it's the sales line table. So now I'm looking at the sugar cane here, which is the first line, and again I can see all the values in all the fields. Sometimes there's a field that you cannot add to your screen, but it's behind the scenes, and your partner can add that field to your screen for you. So this is a great feature for debugging and also just trying to see what other fields might be available to you. All right, number 6 is using the GL registers. So let's go ahead and search for GL registers. This is often an underutilized feature. How this works is anytime there's any posting to the general ledger, it gets recorded in the GL registers. Each one is numbered sequentially, and you will have a running record of every single posting to the general ledger. And there's a lot of useful fields here. For example, you've got the creation date, you've got the creation time, you've got the user ID, the source code tells you the type of transaction it is. For example, this is an inventory cost transaction, we have sales transactions, and so on. So there's all sorts of different transactions that are available. General journals are in here. We've got lots of sales and inventory in this one. And if you have a batch name on a journal, those will show up too. So for example, these were the default batch. So all of this is very useful information. If I want to see the impact of a particular register, we can go ahead, let me just sort this. Here's the last thing that I posted, and I want to see how did that impact the general ledger. I can click the process button here and click general ledger, and I can see the impact to the general ledger from there. If that transaction affected some of the other ledgers, then you can also click onto any of the other ledgers that may have been affected. You also have the ability to reverse an entire register. This typically works on journal entries. It won't work on a sales order, for example, or sales invoice, but you can reverse, for example, an entire journal entry. So this is a nice feature that's available to you there. So again, if you're trying to find out what happened, you want to see who did what was the impact to the general ledger, you can always go to the GL registers. It's a very useful place to go. Number 7, copy and paste to or from Excel. So let's take a look at a journal, and we'll go into General Journals, and I'll just go into my default batch here. Okay, so you can see I have an entry or two in here. What I want to do is copy this to Excel, and then I can make my journal entry in Excel, and then I can copy and paste it from Excel back into Business Central. So, you know, I can go ahead and say select more, and I have one line highlighted, and I'll press Control C. You can see it said one row copied there really quick. See if I can do that again. There you go, Control C. And then I will open up Excel, and let me get this over. There we go. And then I'm going to press Control V, and I have my rows and columns here. So I can go ahead and complete this journal entry in Excel. I'm just going to put in a few lines here. Document type. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy some of these rows from above down. So the account number, for example, you can have all sorts of different accounts, of course. The account name will typically default. Then your description of the journal entry, you can put whatever you want in here. And then your amount. And so let's put a -100 here. And I'm not going to bother with the rest of the columns because I don't need them. So I'm just going to highlight the rows, the cells that I want to copy. And I press Control C. And let's go back to Business Central. And what I want to do is I want to click on a blank line. If I click onto an existing line and try to paste, I will usually get an error from doing that. So let's go ahead and, for example, here, let me get out of this mode here. Okay. Now I'm on a blank line here. So I'm going to right click and paste. You can see it's pasted those two rows from my Excel. And of course, I can show you what the error is. If you're on a line that exists already and you click paste, it'll say you cannot paste X rows into the selected one rows. So just be cautious about that. Is make sure when you're pasting, you're on a blank line, not an existing line. And sometimes it may look like the line is blank when it's really, there's a record there. So safest thing to do is make sure you click on a blank line when you paste. Number 8, edit in Excel. And I don't believe you can do this in the sandbox environment, but you can do this in the production environment. And not every screen has this function. Let's take a look at, for example, the customers. And sometimes on the page button, you'll see a couple of options. One is to open in Excel, and that'll open the current page into Excel. We'll basically copy and paste it there. Or you can also do this function called Edit in Excel. And down here, I have Excel. Okay, here we can see the customer data is now in Excel. And I can make changes now in Excel. And I want to be a little bit cautious here. I don't want to change fields. I don't intend to. So let's go ahead and just start changing something here. So let's change this to Alpine Ski House 2. And let's say this is Relic Cloud 3. So make some changes there to the search name. I can make those changes here to the name as well. So I can make whatever changes I want here. These balances, of course, these are historical fields, so you can't really change this. I might want to change, for example, the credit limit here, and so on. So you have to use a little caution here if you're using this feature, but it is a nice way where you can mass update a bunch of information all at once. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to publish these changes back. If you notice, there's a button here called Publish. It's publishing, and we'll give that a minute. And it's telling us that it's processed 3 changes, and it says the publish was successful. So let's go ahead and go back to Business Central. And we can just refresh the screen. Let me just go out, come back in. And we can see Alpine Ski House 2, Recloud 2, and so on. So our changes are updated. Number 9, using the Hamburger Menu button on the Roll Center to see all functions. So if I'm on the Roll Center, and I'll just go ahead and click on my company name here, and this will take me back to my Roll Center. You'll notice that there is a number of functions that are available from these menus up here: finance, journals, cash management, and so on. Well, the hamburger button is all the way to the right here, and this just shows you everything expanded, so it's easier to see what they all are. So that's just a nice feature you can use there. One other feature that you can find from the hamburger menu here is the Explore All button, and if I click that, you'll see just about everything that you can possibly find in Business Central. So you can see all of the different menus here: administration, manufacturing, finance, purchasing, and so on. Okay, number 10, running Business Central on multiple browser tabs. So you might find it more efficient if you are able to open up several browser tabs with Business Central. And if you're using multiple monitors, you can throw those tabs onto multiple monitors as well. So that's simple enough. What you're going to do is simply come up into the URL section. You're going to copy using Control-C. You're going to open up a new tab. You're going to paste that in there. And then you're going to open up another session of Business Central. So now you can see I have one here. I have another one that's coming up here. And I can just drag and drop this on another web browser. Now I have 2 of them open side by side. This one's still loading. There it is. And so you can do that, and you can drag this to your other monitor. So you can do that many times. I haven't tested to see how many sessions you can open, but this is not taking up any additional licenses. It's still using your user ID, so you can do this quite a bit of times. I've done it a number of times. I don't know what the max is here. So that's it. That's the top 10 Business Central productivity tips. We'll probably do another follow-up video with more productivity tips because I thought of more than 10. So these are the first 10 to get you started, and I hope this makes your life in Business Central a little easier. Thank you very much.